back to another Couch Potato General Manager video. We're back at it with another mock draft, 2022 NFL mock draft duel, head-to-head, CPGM Drew, CPGM Juice. We've gone back and forth throughout this pre-draft process with a series of mock draft duels. This time around, I'll be selecting for the AFC teams, Drew will be selecting for the NFC teams, and we're going to do a two-round version. We did a two-round version perhaps a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But of course, we have the Saints and the Eagles making a trade. Now, the Saints have multiple first-round picks. Eagles pick up a first-rounder next year, as well as an additional day 2 pick. So, Drew, I'm going to get it started off here. I think considering everything that's taken place at this point, free agency, my additional review of the film, for me, it's tough. I think for a lot of people, it's a foregone conclusion that Aiden Hutchinson is going to be the top pick. I still think Kayvon Thibodeau needs to be part of that conversation. But let's go with Aiden Hutchinson.
Go Aiden Hutchinson. All that, we still go with Aiden Hutchinson. All right, man, I'm going to throw a wrench in here because, I'm drafting for the NFC team. And I'm actually going to go Kyle Hamilton here for the Detroit Lions.
Are you serious, Drew? Are you serious?
Man, listen, he may be the best player in the draft, period. The Lions need a safety. They can be multiple on the back end. He can take away some things. Any safety nickel can do in this draft. I think he can do it much better. And he allows that defense to, if he's the moving piece within that Lions Dan Campbell defense, he's much more than just a safety.
Yes, I would agree. I wouldn't do it myself, but all right. I mean, you selected for the NFC teams, man. I got nothing for it. I actually really like the safety class, though. I actually really do like the safety class. There's some really good football players, so I'd be hard pressed to go with Kyle Hamilton when you have this glut of pass rushers on the board here. But Kyle Hamilton is a pick second overall, Drew, with a curveball to get us started. With the Texans, we've maintained throughout this process that, yeah, Lovie Smith might opt for an edge rusher, but we think they need to address the offensive line. I've said it numerous times. I'll continue to reiterate it as we get closer and closer to the actual draft. They were the worst rushing team in the league. You've decided to roll with Davis Mills. You need to make sure that offensive line is actually competent. You only have one guy, I believe, under contract beyond 2022. So I'm going to go with Ika Ekwonu, and the reason why I want to go with Ekwonu is because of just the nasty that he brings to the table as far as being a run blocker. Evan Neal, Charles Cross probably a little bit further along as far as pass protection, but this team was so terrible on the ground. They were awful across the board, all statistical categories. I need a tone setter here, and I believe Ekwonu is the guy. I'm going to follow that up with the Jets' first of 2 first-round picks, 4th overall. I know folks love Sauce Gardner in this spot. I do too. I love Sauce Gardner, but I got to go get my guy. And again, I'm still on the fence when it comes to Hutchinson and Thibodeau. I'm still a bit on the fence, but if Thibodeau's on the board 4th overall, I think you pair him up with Carl Lawson, and then we can start working our way backward in terms of the defense, or potentially go on the offensive side of the ball.
I ain't mad at it. All right, man. If I'm the Giants here, I'm running up to the podium, handing it to Roger Goodell. We're not going to knock him over for this pick. Offensive tackle, Evan Neal. He's going to play our left. We'll move Andrew Thomas over to right, and we're going to run it, man. We're going to protect our quarterback. All right, next up, we got the Carolina Panthers, man. There's a lot of talk about them guys going to get a quarterback. We know the Saints have, obviously moved up. They're saying maybe they go get a quarterback. Ooh, this is tough, man, right here. Because offensive line tackle is a big position that this team needs, but quarterback is also that concern. Is just kind of like you kind of weighing it out. What should I do? What should I do, right?
Right.
Man, this is tough. This is tough. And for this team, I'm going to go offensive tackle because let's just say if I'm the GM, the coach doesn't work out, and it's just not happening. At least the tackle part of it, offensive line part, it doesn't matter who the coach is that comes in there, right? So we're gonna go ahead and do that because the quarterback, you got to get attached to that guy. You're attached at the what do they call it, the hip with him if you go with him. So
you know what?
Don't play it safe.
You know what? I don't necessarily agree with that. Not in this day and age. Not in this day and age. Okay. With the rookie wage scale in place, we've seen guys basically a new regime come in and say that's not my guy. That's not my guy. I'm going in a different direction. We've seen that, so I don't necessarily agree with that. But certainly, depending on your feeling of Iquanu, Neal, Cross, whichever the three at 6,
Mhm.
I understand Carolina prioritizing that, especially after what you did with Sam Darnold. You know how I feel about Sam Darnold. You already
Yep.
know. I'm not coming out of this draft without somebody to at least compete with him at a minimum, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I expect whoever I do draft to actually be my starter, but I certainly understand it. It is an area of concern, and it's the most important position group. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
while I don't think it's a damning situation in terms of drafting a quarterback one year and then the next regime saying, "Hey, that's not my guy," I think you can recoup some of the capital. You're not going to obviously get the same capital if it turns out that way, but
Right.
on the other hand, it might be a guy that they love. You understand what I'm saying? So
Only takes one.
yeah, exactly. So Charles Cross is the pick here. All right,
Yes, sir.
and we got the Giants back on the clock.
Yeah, man. Riser of all risers and Trayvon Walker, who's been, DJ has said it from the very beginning. His
Yeah,
first mock draft, he had him up there, man. He was like, what,
yeah.
the second or
Top
third?
5. I think it was top 5.
Yeah, top 5 edge
Yeah.
player off the board. And, should I stay with it? Should I be a little bit different here and go Jermaine Johnson? Because I'm okay with going with him here, but we're gonna stay the course, man. We're gonna stay the course. I'm gonna go ahead and grab me a Trayvon Walker, and we pair him with the Evan Neal pick. Stay in the trenches on both sides of the ball for the New York Giants.
I like it.
And next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and man, are they hurt. They hurt because they were looking at Trayvon Walker like, damn, we could get him right there, but we missed out. But you do have Jermaine Johnson still on the board from Florida State. We know CPGM Headley would love that pick. And this is a team where you just kind of just draft best bet player available. And here it is. Willis is on the board for them to take. I know they signed Marcus Mariota. As far as I'm concerned, it's a lost season for these guys. So for me, it's a lost season. They can pretty much just wrap it up. You know what? Let's grab Malik Willis. Let's do it. Man. Let's quarterback. Let's do it, man.
All right.
Arthur Smith gets his guy, Malik Willis, can throw the ball down the field, and I know that team's going to want to run the football, but when they take those shots down the field, they got the quarterback to get it down the field, and Malik Willis.
Yeah, and they have a dynamic player. You know what I'm saying, with the ball in his hands as well. Willis has some rough edges, but there's certain aspects of his game you simply can't teach. And we're going to have this conversation a little bit more. I'm really interested to hear what you and CPGM Headley have to say about Malik Willis versus Trey Lance. Trey Lance was the 3rd overall pick a season ago. And when you look at the film, yeah, there may be some counting stats that favor Trey Lance. Of course, he didn't play against, neither played against great competition, although Trey Lance played with a much better supporting cast. State is a powerhouse in the FCS. But, I don't see stark differences in terms of their passing profile. You understand what I'm saying? That's kind of my thought process. Yes, different body types, but I don't see a huge difference. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about that, but we'll get into that later.
All right, next up we have the Seattle Seahawks, who this was the Denver Broncos. Obviously, we know what happened there. And this is a team who, to me, this is a team, they're kind of selling the farm, man. Bobby Wagner is now with the Rams. They're talking about DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, I guess, on the trade block. They're just kind of hitting the reset button. I'm a little surprised that they're doing that because Pete Carroll is, 70 years old. I guess, he's just going to coach till the very end. And I'm very interested to see what this team does because, as far as I'm concerned, they haven't drafted well. It's essentially caught up to them.
Yeah.
So for this team here, I'm gonna go best player available, and I'm gonna go Ahmad Gardner.
This is really interesting, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
This is really interesting. So you go Sauce Gardner here to Seattle. Seattle certainly can use the talent at the corner, but you trade away Russell Wilson, and I'm of the mindset that depending on the tea leaves, Seattle may end up trading up again. I think they're coming away with a quarterback. I can't imagine.
Possible. It's possible.
It just doesn't make any sense, man. It doesn't make any sense. I understand what you're doing here because of the way the board's falling. Best player available.
Right.
Don't force the issue. But I just can't imagine, trading away Russell Wilson, being in the top 10 and not taking a quarterback because you have Drew Lock in tow. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me.
I truly think that Malik Willis is going to fall into their lap. They may not even have to trade. He may just fall right there at 9 and they take him. I think that's probably who they go with there.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna be a little different too. If Gardner was on the board here at 10, I would definitely take him. But I'm gonna go with the upside play here on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see what the Jets fans think about this. We got Kayvon Thibodeau in tow. We want to be able to get after the passer with our down 4, a la Robert Saleh's defense. I'm not necessarily my receiver 1, but the upside is just incredibly tantalizing. I'm gonna go with Jameson Williams right here, man.
The ACL, man. We good with the ACL?
I think if that all checks out, that acceleration, and you pair them with the Elijah Moores of the world, we'll see if they can get anything out of Denzel Mims, Braxton Berrios in the slot. You still have Davis. We ultimately want to give Zach Wilson every opportunity to be successful. You know what I'm saying? This gives you the quintessential deep threat. Of course, he's so much more well-rounded than that. He can make plays at every level of the field, but it's just he's just a difference maker in terms of that speed, in terms of his acceleration. I personally could see Williams going here 10th overall, all the way down to perhaps one of the Chiefs picks. I think there's a big range, but I think it really depends on how the knee is responding, and by all accounts, you know what I mean, he's supposed to make a full recovery. So Jameson Williams is a pick here.
So we got the Washington Commanders, and I'm just gonna go receiver, man. This is a team who I think they just need help at the receiver position. Obviously, this is a team who also, we could go quarterback, but I want to go receiver, man. I'm tired of seeing what I'm seeing for this football team. Maybe they get a Sam Howell in the second round. We'll see.
You don't love the Carson Wentz? You don't love the Carson Wentz, bro?
Right.
You keep on mentioning quarterbacks. Carson Wentz, they traded for their quarterback.
No, I understand that, but did you hear me say him?
I'm being facetious, bro.
Okay. All right. Since they traded for said quarterback, we're going to help said quarterback. We're going to do the right thing, and we're going to get him a receiver. And we're going to actually get him a guy, and I think he would actually match very well for this football team. I know he didn't have a great combine. He is still my receiver 1. I don't care what he did at the combine pro day. None of that matters to me, because when I look at the tape, he is everything as advertised. He's just a little rough around the edges, needs a little polish, and that's Treylon Burks from Arkansas.
Oh, okay.
And he can do what you traded for him. Was it Curtis Samuel they traded for him, or they signed him?
They signed him. They signed him. Yeah.
He can do all that plus more.
Yeah, he does bring that skill set. They have a professional route runner already in place in Terry McLaurin. They went Donnie Brown, guy who could stretch the field last year. I think he'll take a step. Treylon Burks does bring a different skill set and some size, some much needed size to that position group in Washington.
All right, next up we have the Minnesota Vikings, and an eyesore for this team, and it's been an eyesore, not for a lack of trying it. I love teams that will continue to try at a position, although it may not work out. I can appreciate it, and I don't have to kill them in the comments. I don't have to kill them in every time I talk about them with that particular position or two, in that they're cornerback. I know they could probably use a safety here, but they can definitely get that later in the draft, because that, like CPGM Juice was saying, it is a deep class for the safety. It's all different kinds in that position. And so we're going to go ahead. We're going to scoop up, and the number 1 corner is off the board in Sauce Gardner. But we have Derek Stingley, who probably is cornerback number 1 if we get freshman Stingley 2019 Stingley, or we can go with us and Andrew Booth Jr., who I love the ball skills, and I'm always kind of flip-flopping with the corners, speaking to why I do it, obviously, not just doing it just to do it. And I'm going to stick with Stingley here. I'm going to stick with Stingley here.
Okay.
We're going to get 2019 Stingley. I'm comfortable with it. Go ahead and draft him there and be that corner 1 that they need on the other side.
Speaking of corners, we have scouting reports from Maud Gardner as well as Derek Stingley Jr. on the channel. Be sure to check that out. I got the Texans up with the 13th overall.
Hold on,
pick.
how you gonna name those 2 and then leave off the one you just put out?
Well, those were the two that were selected. I'll get to the other guys. Those are the 2 that were selected at this point. So now I appreciate you though. Plug. I appreciate you. You got Ross McCreary as well as Andrew Booth most recently. So I get where Drew's going with that, but. We got the Texans on the clock here, 13th overall, and the way it's shaping up, there are a lot of good players on this board. I like this draft class. I know people aren't thrilled with the quarterback position, And more recently, there's been some cold water thrown on the receiver group. The guys, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's some prognosticators that don't feel like there's like a true number one in this particular class. I think there's some guys who are certainly capable of it, and it may depend on ultimately where they land, but certainly have the aptitude for it. But I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. We address the offensive line with the Texans with the 3rd overall pick. I'm going to continue to address the trenches here. I got to go with Jermaine Johnson. The production, the explosion off the edge. You pair him up with Jonathan Grenard, and I think you got a quality pass rush for Lovie Smith's cover 2 scheme. If you're going to play all that zone, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to necessarily bring additional rushers. You got to get to the quarterback. Interior defensive line is something that should be considered here, but with Jermaine Johnson on the board, he's the pick, particularly with the Ravens coming up next year. I think the Texans would certainly make that selection. All right, and with Jermaine Johnson coming off the board, the edge that in all likelihood the Ravens would have selected there, we're going to look at the cornerback position. And that corner position was beat up. It was a mash unit a season ago. You got Marcus Peters coming off an injury going into the last year of his deal. No more Jimmy Smith, no more Taven Young. Marlon Humphrey will come back from his injury. You got a couple of young players here, but you got to have at least 3, maybe even 4 players at the position to be able to be successful week in and week out in this passing league. You mentioned him previously. We're going to go with Andrew Booth. Speaking of which, Drew, you alluded to it. We have the scouting report for Andrew Booth. I think this is a guy that has all the traits to play man, but he is just more comfortable in zone at this juncture. He has some refinement to do, but I love the ball skills. And if you're comfortable with Marcus Peters being out there on the boundary, there's no reason why Andrew Booth can't come in here and make a difference for the Baltimore Ravens.
All right, next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles with the 15th pick overall. And we could go cornerback here. We could go receiver here. We could also go edge. But I think the position that I want to go here, well, no, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do it now because I think the guy that I could go with later will be there at 18 because we know they traded away the 16th pick to the Saints who come up next. And so I'm going to go Garrett Wilson. Be a little bit different.
Really?
Garrett Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Garrett Wilson.
I think with this trade, trade to the Saints, they're out on a receiver. That's what I think.
You think so?
I think so. I could be wrong, obviously, but I think they're out on a receiver. Even though they brought back some of their own veterans, these guys are on 1-year deals. They haven't necessarily been playing at a great level. I think Howie Roseman was just trying to give himself some flexibility. But you've talked about this. Some teams will use free agency to address the need so that they don't have the glaring need going into the actual draft. But depending on how the board plays out, and in this case, Garrett Wilson is the guy kind of for you, right? They could still address those positions, whether it be interior defensive line. You got a Devontae Wyatt that I'd like to see in Philadelphia here. You understand what I'm saying? Or if you want to go to the edge or play with a George Karlaftis, a Boye Mafe, a number of different other guys that could be part of the conversation. Or go corner. Corners are starting to come off the board here, so corner is a position of need as well. But they do have 2 first-round picks. So Garrett Wilson is the pick. Pair him up with Devontae Smith, and apparently you're making Jalen Reagor a afterthought.
Man, that's what Eagle fans want. I give Eagle fans what they want. All right, man. Next up, we have the Saints, and the big talk, was that the Saints got fleeced in this trade. I don't know. I've looked at it a bunch of times, and maybe I'm missing something. I don't know that they did. Maybe the Saints feel like, hey, listen, we're a couple of players away from going back to where we were. Win now mode. Let's just do it. I respect it. I hope it as a Bucs fan doesn't work out, but as a football fan, I got you. I understand it. But this is a team who, at the end of the day, it's either offensive tackle, quarterback, or wide receiver, right? Those are the 3. There's no. If they go any other position, I mean, somebody need to get the 5 fingers to the face. Don't know who it be. Might need to be a couple of people. But here at this position, I'm gonna go because I think Jameis Winston's on a 1-year deal. We're moving Taysom Hill over to tight end, where he should have been playing in the first place, and we're gonna go ahead and do the right thing and scoop up our quarterback of the future and Kenny. No, we're not doing that. We're going to get Trevor Penning, offensive tackle. That's what we need. We got to protect the quarterback, whoever it is.
I like it.
We're going to go with Trevor Penning.
I like it. I mean, I certainly understand and be comfortable with the Kenny Pickett selection there, but they do have a glaring need at tackle, and Penning is the best of the rest at this juncture. I was actually thinking Trevor Penning here with the 17th overall pick for the Chargers, but that is no longer in the cards. But, however, we've talked about this before. I have an issue with the second level of their defense. I have a problem with it. Chargers fans, let me know what's the plan with Kenneth Murray. Or is he going to turn a corner? I'm not counting on it. I'm not counting on it. That's the reason why I'm going to go with Devin Lloyd. I think the Chargers defense has been a problem up the middle. So they made it a point in free agency to bring in some grease, bring in some interior defensive linemen. So it doesn't necessarily force your hand here with Jordan Davis, although you could go the Jordan Davis route. I like the dynamic play of Devin Lloyd at the second level, all three downs. He can help in your pass rush. He can certainly solidify your run defense. Love it. You drop him in, and you can kind of forget about it at the mic.
All right, next up, we have the Eagles with the 18th pick overall, and I'm going to go ahead and scoop up the I wanted to go linebacker. I really did. I wanted only one man.
They got Kazir White, man. They don't need a linebacker.
Come on, bro.
That's what the Eagles fans are telling me.
Okay.
I think what Kazir White does for them, though, is basically allow them to address linebacker later. I think that's what it does for them.
All right, so this is what I'm going to say. If Lloyd's on the board, with this pick right here, I think you got to select him, bro. Because I get all the I understand they play a crazy amount of zone in defense, and Kaiser is supposed to keep them from drafting. No, this guy can do more than just play linebacker.
He's a bad man. That's why I took him 17th overall.
They don't understand. They must not understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
I think because he didn't test out of the gym, people have kind of soured on him a little bit.
Why did they do this, bro?
But I'm telling you, if Devin Lloyd tested, as an upper echelon athlete, I think he'd be in the top 10. I think he'd go in the top 10. I think he's that explosive.
Bro, as long as you didn't bomb it, I don't care.
I'm not concerned about it. I think he now it comes at value. I think he comes at a value now. Yeah.
We're gonna go best zone corner in the country and Trent McDuffie. Washington corner,
young
tackle, and he would be a perfect fit for what the Eagles do. A lot of Eagles fans, I don't think like it all that much, but just because he didn't test well. But the film don't lie. Film don't lie.
In fact, that's actually the next scouting report that will be coming out on the channel. So be on the lookout, folks. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
All right, next up, we have the Saints once more. Once again, we went offensive tackle Trevor Penning. We loved him out there at the Senior Bowl to shore that up because the Saints needed that more than anything else. And now I think that they're protecting their quarterback and able to run the football. I think that for me here, we could scoop up Kenny Pickett. We could do it right now, but we did talk about them winning now, though. Mm-hmm. And winning now is not grabbing a quarterback, but again, they only have Jameis.
Is it? I mean, it's Jameis. You know what I'm saying?
They got Jameis on a 1-year deal, man. I guess it's a prove-it deal.
I guess.
You know what I mean?
No Sean Payton.
Maybe Dennis Allen. He wants to
stop playing, man. Get this guy somebody to throw the ball to.
Yeah, stop playing.
Stop playing, man. Get him somebody to throw it to.
If I'm the Saints, you know what I do? I probably I go back and get Brandon Cooks again. I go back and trade for him. That's what I would do. That's just me, but he's probably going to end up playing for the Chiefs. I'm going to just put it out there. I'm going to go Drake London.
Okay.
Go Drake London.
Another big-bodied receiver out there. All right, so you're pairing him up with Michael Thomas. You're going to give Jameis some room for error here with those two receivers.
And he knows how to do that, because he had a Mike Evans once before.
There you go. Well, with that selection, this makes it rather simple for me. Of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers brought in Mitchell Trubisky to kind of be the bridge, perhaps even, catch lightning in a bottle. I know Drew would like that outcome. I don't see it though. I'm going to go with the local product and Kenny Pickett. Yeah, he has a tendency to bail clean pockets, but I think that's something that's correctable. I think he sees the whole field very well and is able to distribute the ball to all areas of the field. And that's the idea here, is get the ball to your playmakers. You understand what I'm saying? I think this team certainly could improve upon the offensive line, but with their quarterback situation as is and Kenny Pickett staring them in the face with the 20th overall pick, that's the direction I'm going to go in. I actually see the Steelers moving up. I think the Steelers want Malik Willis. I think they may end up getting one of the quarterbacks, because basically all of them were at the Senior Bowl. I think they may end up getting one of them, but I think who they covet is probably Malik Willis.
You think Pickett has the highest floor of all of those top?
In my opinion,
four-ish,
yes.
five-ish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The athleticism is underrated. Yeah. There's
I
a
agree.
little bit.
I agree.
There's a concern in terms of him having had so many snaps under his belt, leaving well-formed pockets. I think he probably just didn't trust the group up front enough. And frankly, he may not trust this particular group up front all that much. But I think in terms of floor, yeah, for me, he has the highest floor. All right. With the 21st pick, we have the New England Patriots on the clock. And, they certainly need to get better at receiver. They need to help their young quarterback and Mac Jones. But the way these corners are coming off the board, how much emphasis they place on being able to man up on the boundary, whether they're getting guys in the draft or undrafted free agents, they always seem to figure that out. So the question then becomes, do we try our hand at receiver, or do we make it a point to go ahead and replace J.C. Jackson? He's now in Los Angeles. Do I go ahead and address that position now?
The one thing you say about New England is they do develop corners from wherever they get them from. You know what I mean? So if they feel like, hey, we don't necessarily have to go and get the top guy at this point in the draft, we can get a guy a little lower and then develop them, or maybe they got somebody in the wings. I don't know. But that's one position I do trust them with.
I don't know, man. You got Tyreek Hill now in the division. You're right. It is one of the positions that they consistently find guys who come in and are difference makers. But right now they have Jalen Mills. Jalen Mills is their top corner right now. Receiver's an eyesore, but they just traded for Devontae Parker. I want to address receiver, I really do, but Chris Olave is calling my name. But I gotta go corner, man. Question is which corner? And I'm gonna surprise some folks here. And I may upset some Patriots fans, but I love this guy. Kaiir Elam is certainly a guy to consider here. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes 21st overall. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm gonna go with Roger McCreary. I think he has so much more flexibility in terms of what he brings to the table. As far as being able to play any role, any system, I think McCreary is the guy. He doesn't have elite athleticism or physical traits per se, but he's good in all areas. He's one of the most balanced prospects in this class. Inside the numbers, outside the numbers, zone, man, whatever you want. And here's the reality, and people don't seem to realize this, there's no corner in this class that has more snaps in press coverage and actually jamming the receiver, which I love. And I believe Belichick will love it too. So Roger McCreary is my guy, man.
All right, so I'm deciding between two receivers. We ignoring everything else for the Green Bay Packers here for the 22nd pick overall. I mean, let's just stop.
Olave is the guy, man. It worked out.
So I'm gonna go Olave. And when the 28th pick rolls around, we'll
get your boy. We'll double down. We'll find out. We'll find out. All right.
Where's Olave? Polish. Let's get it. All right. Next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals. And if this guy's on the board, we don't care about nothing else. We are going to go ahead and grab Zion Johnson.
I love it.
Center, guard, tackle, although probably going to play guard, obviously, if not center. Figure it out, Arizona. You need it. Protect your quarterback.
Love it.
Kyler Murray.
Yep.
All right, man. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And, I've been listening to a couple of Cowboys folks. I've been reading some tweets. I don't usually read, but reading a couple articles, And listen,
put it in the book. You want to hide it from Drew? Put it in a book.
Put it in a book. That's it. The Cowboys are posers. I don't mean fans. I mean the actual team. Like paper champs. Yeah. They're America's team. They put on this facade that they kind of. And listen, the Rams are what the Cowboys want to be.
Yes, you're absolutely.
They are the star power. They do spend the money. They'll do whatever they have to do to win. And the Cowboys kind of play like they do that, but in reality, if you go back, you check everything, you look around, they really don't do that.
No.
They build within, they pay within. They don't want to go they don't want to go on the outside, which is weird to me.
No.
Like, and the crazy part is sometimes they're on the cusp of like kind of taking that next step, and they don't do what needs to be done. And it's not a huge step. It's just the next step on the stair. I'm not saying you got to go 3 steps up from at the bottom. I'm just saying but they don't want to do it for whatever reason. they have their program. That's how they're going to run it.
They stick to it.
I get it. But here I'm going to pass up Karlaftis. Okay. Because I want a little bit more spice and flash from my edge, and I'm going to grab Boye Mafe.
Oh, so Drew, I'm a little surprised with this one. Not that I dislike Boye Mafe, but considering what Dallas has done this offseason and what that offensive line is looking like with the likes of Tyler Linderbaum and Kenyon Green on the board, explain this one to me and these Dallas fans, man.
I was just thinking about their defense, man. I was thinking about the sexy that was there in Boye Mafe. I know they signed Dante Fowler to play the other side opposite of DeMarcus Lawrence, but Lawrence can't stay healthy. We know this. Two, Fowler signed to a 1 year, $5 million contract. Well, he's kind of at this stage in his career, and it's he ain't that old, but he's kind of a mercenary at this point. He's kind of been all over the place, traded here, there, everywhere. This is a guy who, with Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator, he can mix things up. Maybe Karlaftis may be the better fit here because you can actually throw him inside.
Yeah.
But I just like the flash, and I think Mafe. I think he has the potential to be the best.
You're looking for star power here.
That's
to your point regarding the Rams and everything. You're looking for star power here. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, because I think schematically, if you're going to go to the defensive side of the ball, Karlaftis, Wyatt, considering the existing personnel, probably makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. Certainly took a peek at Nakobe Dean. Linebacker position, I cannot stand. Tremaine Edmonds, always out of position. But we have a glaring hole opposite Tre'Davious White. White coming off of the injury at corner. I want to make sure that we have a position group of strength. We continue to have a position group of strength in terms of the secondary as a whole. We're going to drop Kaiir Elam into that mix to round it out. All right, so we have the Tennessee Titans on the clock here. They lost Roger Saffold to free agency. Julio Jones is no longer in town. Those are the two positions I'm looking at. I'm looking at the interior of the offensive line as well as receiver. I am tempted to go receiver here. But I'm gonna opt for Kenyon Green. They have their two expected starters at guard are in the last year of their contract, and despite the fact that they managed to continue to be effective in terms of their running game, the attrition, the losses in terms of free agency are starting to kind of take its toll on this offensive line, and we need to replenish that. We need to make sure that position group continues to be a position of strength. So Kenyon Green is a pick. Get him going. Get Derrick Henry in behind him.
All right. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if this guy's on the board when they're picking, you just run it up there. I was thinking about going safety, but he's still there. And Devontae Wyatt. And we just going to slide him in there next to Vita and just run it. Just let him do what he does, which is to disrupt, destroy.
I don't like it. I don't like it.
And penetrate.
I don't like
it.
I don't like it. And you know me. Wyatt is my guy. I don't like it in this system.
And that fit. I got you. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers, and the guy I was looking for to be there is still there.
Okay.
And that is Christian Watson.
Okay.
Wide receiver out of North Dakota State, guy who can play special teams, a guy who is coming from a run-heavy offense in North Dakota State, but he is polished. And he knows how to get off the line of scrimmage, releases. Like, he has everything that you need. And I think his best football is ahead of him at this point. And since you lost Devontae Adams and, there's really no receiver at this current moment outside of maybe Lazard that Aaron Rodgers trusts, you got to get guys in here who are reliable. We went Olave with the first pick, and we're going to go to Watson with the second pick. And you got to double down, man, because you got your quarterback now. The franchise is back. He's here. Right, and you lost the best receiver in the league, so we gotta replace that.
All right, so with Tyreek Hill now in Miami, the Kansas City Chiefs obviously have a need at receiver. They need to address the secondary as well as the defensive line. So got a number of different players here that could fit the bill, but for my money, I think the pick here is going to be one Jahan Dotson. Let's bring him in. Give Patrick Mahomes another weapon to work with. Now that we have Jahan Dotson in the fold with the 30th overall pick, Kansas City Chiefs on the clock, I'm of two minds. We can address the defensive line, but of course, it's just so deep. this class is so deep and rich along the defensive line. There's a glaring need at cornerback, but I don't really like how the board is playing out there. So I'm not going to reach for a corner. The question is, do you go safety here? Do you go with Daxton Hill? Is a Lewis Sign kind of the guy that, because those guys are so versatile, they can do so much more than just play in a deep third or deep center field, deep half of the field. You know what I'm saying? With a too high look, they can offer other aspects, other elements of their game. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the potential of having Jordan Davis inside next to Chris Jones here, man. I think that's just a lot of beef, a lot of athleticism to deal with, man. You know what I'm saying? And could really provide some additional teeth. And then, of course, allow Nick Bolton and Will Gay to fly and fly around at that second level. So I'm gonna offer Jordan Davis here, man.
I ain't mad at it. I ain't mad at it.
And with my final pick, representing the AFC in the first round, this one's easy for me. They've done a lot of good things this offseason as far as retooling that offensive line. That's a glaring need, of course, in Cincinnati. They understand the assignment. And this is how we finish the assignment. This is how we punctuate the assignment, my friend. We're going to draft Tyler Linderbaum. Drop him in there, and Joe Burrow is now secure.
With the last pick, the Super Bowl winning team's pick in the Detroit Lions. But they can only dream. They're a couple years away. We are going to select George Karlaftis. Stop the slide. Go ahead and slap him right there. Play edge. I know people were screaming that's what you should have did in the first place, because now you do have the safety sitting there. And that's what you were talking about earlier from that second pick. But we kind of flopped the talent level, I guess you could say, between the positions. You know, does it even out though? Most would probably say it doesn't, right?
Most would probably say it doesn't.
But I say it does.
Okay.
So we're going George Karlaftis.
Drew says it does, so he's going George Karlaftis. All right, so we got this thing started off with Aiden Hutchinson. Do we help out our quarterback here? Can we help out our quarterback here? Is there a guy that we like at this particular juncture we feel could come in and make a difference? Certainly there are players that can, but I want to play a little defense. I'm looking at Nakobe Dean. Probably not the best fit schematically, but I just love the football IQ. The guy that I'm really interested in here, who provides so much flexibility. You can play him next to Rayshawn Jenkins. I'm gonna opt for one of the better prospects I think in this class. I think he can certainly find his way into the first round, and that's going to be Daxton Hill.
We have the Detroit Lions. With the first pick, we went Kyle Hamilton. With the 32nd pick, we went George Karlaftis. So we got our guy on the back end, and then we went ahead and got a guy that can come off the edge. And so now I want to go. You know, I was thinking quarterback, but I'm like, nah, we gonna stick with Juice's favorite quarterback and Jared Goff, phone booth player. We're gonna go receiver. No, excuse me, we're not going receiver. We're gonna go linebacker. Nakobe Dean. We're gonna stop the slide. I don't even know if it's really a slide, but
yeah, that was actually my next pick. I was about to pick Dean. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take him from you. I'm gonna go Nakobe Dean here. I think that the Lions lack some splash at that position. A guy who can do more than just play the linebacker position, if you know what I mean, in terms of coming downhill, blitzing, and just bringing a level of intensity that I think the Lions defense misses in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, they too are transitioning to a 3-4, and it's not that he can't play it. I just don't love him in that particular scheme. But to your point, with the Lions in particular, you know, adding a player like that, a guy who's effectively your quarterback of your defense, you know what I'm saying, goes a long way for a young team that's trying to build up the defensive side of the ball. So I certainly understand it. With the Jets here, I'm going to go with Kyler Gordon. I think from a scheme perspective, cover 3, deep third, zone principles, I think he's a good fit here. There may be some guys that intrigue me a little bit more, but I think given the draft capital here as well as the scheme, I think he's a good fit for the Jets as they look to improve the cornerback position.
All right, next up, man, we got the New York Football Giants, and a lot of people initially, when drafts were starting to come out after the season was over, towards the end of the season, a lot of people were having Kyle Hamilton kind of mocked to these guys continuously if it wasn't George Karlaftis. And so obviously we didn't draft Kyle Hamilton. He was drafted a little early, some would say, by the Lions. But with the 2 picks they had in the first round, we got Evan Neal and then Trayvon Walker. So we dealt with the trenches. And we want to continue to help out this defense. Safety is an issue for this team, and I want to get the best safety on the board right now, and I want to go and get Lewis Seen from Georgia.
All right, so in the first round with the Houston Texans, we selected Ika Makwanu and followed that up with Jermaine Johnson. We're going to go back to the defensive line here. We want to be able to get after the passer, and we're going to put your guy, Perrion Winfrey, in a position to attack as opposed to two-gapping, which he did at Oklahoma. We're going to allow him to attack, which he was able to do at Mobile, and he was a star. He was one of the stars that week. He was one of the top 3 players, I'd argue, in terms of how they performed throughout that week. So in order to get Lovie Smith's cover 2 going, we got to be able to get after the passer. With Jonathan Grenard, we now have Jermaine Johnson, and with this selection, we're adding Perrion Winfrey. So that puts the New York Jets back on the clock, and for me, I'm thinking potentially offensive line, but as I mentioned before, I was going to go Nakobe Dean had you not gone with him 34th overall. We got the cornerback. Let's figure out what we're going to do here. Let's figure out what we're going to do here at linebacker. The guy that I really like, I know some people may not necessarily be as high on him as me, but I think Chad Muma is a really good player, man. I think he can go in and you can slot him in next to DJ Mosley and form a really competent and effective duo, a la what they've had previously in a lot of these cover 3 schemes. It's cover 3 over schemes, right? It's typically 2 linebackers at the second level that do most of the work. Put Mosley and Muma there, and you have those 2 guys working behind what is now a very, very impressive, at least on paper, very impressive defensive line. So Chad Muma is the pick for me.
All right, so next up we have the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to go offensive tackle, just kind of looking at the positions that we could go here. Obviously, it's a team that didn't have a first-round pick, and we could go edge, but I feel like the edge is still deep, and we could catch that later on in the draft. And receiver, I think, is the same thing. It's deep. I'm going to get the offensive tackle out of Central Michigan, Bernhard Raimann, the Noodles. Just kidding. No, y'all know y'all ate that in college. That this is the guy who essentially changed his body throughout the years at Central Michigan, and he's still a work in progress, but he's going to be better than anything that the Bears have, and we got to protect the franchise in Justin Fields. So let's go ahead and do the right thing. All right, man. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks.
Back-to-back
and
Seahawks.
Back-to-back picks. You're correct. And with this team, again, this is a team talking about, they're kind of, sounds like they're kind of punting and kind of hitting the reset button. I understand it. I get it. But this is a team who, are we going to run with Drew Lock? Do you trust Drew Lock? I know you don't. And you know what we're going to do, man? We're going to draft the guy that nobody's talking about. We're gonna take a shot, man. He's probably not gonna go here just because we haven't heard about him, recency bias and out of sight, out of mind. But I'm gonna draft Matt Corral, quarterback out of Ole Miss. And then next up with that second pick, the 41st pick, I am going to select edge. Out of Penn State, Arnold Ebiketie. Say that 10 times fast. He was at the Senior Bowl. He's got the length. He's got the explosiveness off the line. He has the tenacity, intensity to play the position, and has some of that no quit that you want. You can't teach what he has in terms of that length, man. I mean, you can just see it. You can see it before the snap, man. It's a beautiful thing, and we're going to go ahead and seal off our edge and going to get Ebiketie.
You know what, Drew? I had reservations. I had reservations about you taking Sauce Gardner with the 9th overall pick. But if it played out like this, it'd be hard to argue with it. I'm not a huge Matt Corral fan, but I think in the appropriate system, he can be very, very effective. Particularly if you keep your receivers. I know they're hell bent on trading at least one of them, perhaps both of them, but. You want to make sure that you guys have weapons. I know they want to run it on first, second, and third down, but they want to do so out of the shotgun. That doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, if it plays out this way, where you get a Sauce Gardner, Corral, and Ebiketie with your first 3 picks, I'd be hard pressed to have an issue with that when Seattle was in no man's land and being caught between, okay, we have our quarterback, but we actually need to rebuild, and I think this is a good start, assuming it works out this way. Colts, obviously they trade for Matt Ryan, but the cupboard is pretty bare on the perimeter. We're going to go ahead and grab Sky Moore to help that particular position group out in Indianapolis.
All right, next up we have the Atlanta Falcons. And you know what I'm gonna do, because this is a lost year for them. It's a throwaway year for them, and I know we want to help our quarterback out, but we may not necessarily throw him out there, even though we drafted him pretty high, because this team is just not ready, and they're not going to get ready in the next couple of within this next year. We're gonna draft a guy who may not play this year, and David Ajabo.
Yeah, I like it.
We're gonna grab him.
Stash him.
Yeah.
Guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. We have the Cleveland Browns on the clock. Let's go get that man in the middle of the defense here, Travis Jones, man. You know, we could go edge here. The number of edge guys on the board, but again, it's such a deep position. I'd like to get Travis Jones here. He gives you more than 2 downs as a perhaps a 1 or even 0 technique. I think he can get upfield, penetrate, and give you a little push in the pass game as well. So Travis Jones is a pick here as we clear the way for JOK to become a star. All right.
I like it, bro.
And we're going to stay in the AFC North here with the Baltimore Ravens, and we're going to go with Nick Bonito. All right. We want to get real aggressive, real physical off the edge. Of course, they went with Odafe Owe last year. A little bit raw, but of course he has excellent athleticism. I want to get a guy who's a little bit more polished in terms of his pass rush technique and ability, with, I think, comparable, if not more, upside here.
Oof. Somebody's mad at you, bro.
Why?
Taking shots. It's okay.
At Odafe?
Yeah. But we told him, though. We told you, though. Hey, listen. So.
Yeah, he got schemed up a few times. You could do some things with him in terms of being able to spy the quarterback, and he's an impressive athlete. But he's got work to do. And the Ravens have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball.
All right, next up we have the Minnesota Vikings, and I have them selecting. I was deciding between 2 safeties, Jaquan Brisker and Jalen Petrie, and these guys they're a little bit different in terms of how you want to use them. I think Petrie is the better slot player, can come down, play the nickel. I think he can play the single high, or even play the strong safety guy who wants to come up and lay wood, but he's probably not going to lay wood as good as Brisker. He's a guy who's flying down and has no regard for his body in terms of making tackles, but he can also play the single high if needed. And I'm going to go with Brisker just because I trust him a little bit more on the back end, I think. But I think she's probably the better nickel player down in the box to lock up, them tight ends and things like that. But I'm going to go with Brisker because these guys do have Harrison Smith as well.
All right.
Next up, we have the Washington Commanders, the Daniel Snyder, probably going to lose his football team. Commanders.
I mean, it's time to take it away from him.
He just, every time you turn around, there's something popping off with this guy, man. It's just crazy. With the Commanders, I was thinking we might go tight end here, and get the best tight end in the draft. He would help along the offensive line there to help block up. And Trey McBride, I think he is.
You're not feeling the Logan Thomas thing. You're not feeling it.
No, I was looking at the contract. They can get out pretty much after this year. They can pretty much get out and take a little bit of a cap hit, not much in terms of dead money. I think McBride is he's the most complete tight end coming out in this draft in terms of just catching out the backfield. He's using a myriad of ways over there at Colorado State. But then I also was thinking about cornerback. And thinking about the upside of this player in terms of his size, his speed, and if he can just refine the fact that he has two long arms and some fingers and a hand, and Tariq Woolen, I think you found you a golden piece at that position, right? And so because Ron Rivera is a defensive guy, I'm going to go with Tariq Woolen here versus the tight end and McBride.
All right.
So next up we have the Chicago Bears. First pick I went with was Ryman out of Central Michigan, the guy who changed his body and his soul to play that position. He's a work in progress, but he's better than anything that the Bears have. Stick him in there and let him learn. We'll figure it out as we go. But this is a team that also traded away, if I'm not mistaken, Khalil Mack. And you traded for him, and then you traded him away. It's crazy, right? But anyways,
full circle.
Full circle. You know, it does happen. It will happen. And I'm gonna go down the edge players, and I'm gonna scoop a guy who we saw at the Senior Bowl, and D'Angelo Malone, from Western Kentucky.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go ahead, and we're gonna go ahead and slip right in.
All
and
right.
Let's go play ball, man.
I really like D'Angelo Malone. I would be surprised to see him before the third round, but right. I really like D'Angelo Malone, man. I think he's going to be a problem. A lot of people not too familiar with him. Think he has a chance to be really good.
All right, so next up we have the Saints with the 49th pick overall, and with their first two picks, we know they traded with the Eagles, and I got Trevor Penning with the 16th pick, and I have Drake London with the 19th pick. And we're saying that this team is ready to go. We're not going to draft a quarterback. Maybe we'll do that in the third, fourth round. But right now, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to draft DeMarvin Leal to add to that defensive line to continue the rotation that they have there. So that way that back seven that's back there doesn't have to do a whole lot. Just kind of be in position to make a play on the football. Losing Marcus Williams, I think, is going to be huge.
Malcolm Jenkins ain't there no more either.
No, he's not. And listen, I like Marcus May, but he ain't that.
Marcus Williams a different kind of beast.
Yeah, he erased some mistakes that the Saints would have made on the back end. And he's a guy who has supreme range. And I could have went Petrie here to replace Malcolm Jenkins, but I'm gonna go front seven here and DeMar Leal.
All right. So we have the Chiefs on the clock with the 50th overall pick. In the first round, I took Jahan Dotson and Jordan Davis back to back. I'm looking on the defensive side of the ball again. I was actually eyeing Tariq Woolen, who went a few picks ahead. He's the type of player, obviously, the size, speed combination that they like in Kansas City, on the boundary, right? You know what I mean? I think he would have fit in well there, as he works through some of the rawness that he's still trying to knock off and become more polished overall. But I'm actually going to opt for Jalen Petrie here. I think Petrie's versatility, the fact that he can play the big nickel, he's going to be facing like the Darren Wallers of the world. You understand what I'm saying? The Keenan Allens of the world in the slot. I think he's a nice moving piece there. Again, this is a very good class of safeties, defensive backs overall, but certainly really good class of safeties. And I think Petrie comes in and kind of plays that Tyrann Mathieu role. You know what I mean? And when you consider him and Reed now on the back end, it certainly softens the blow of losing Mathieu, and it's definitely improvement upon Daniel Sorensen. So Petrie's the pick here.
With the Eagles here with the 51st pick overall, with the first two picks, we went we went Garrett Wilson first, 15th overall, and then 18th overall, we went Trent McDuffie. And so with this pick here, I'm thinking either one of two things, man. I'm thinking maybe edge, but I don't really like what I see in edge right here. I like all these players. I think I think that we can still grab a guy later on, so we don't have to force it right now. And I wanna go interior with the offensive line.
All right.
And I think that I am going to go with Sean Ryan.
Okay.
UCLA, interior. And listen, just stick him on that inside and let him do some work, man. As long as he's in a phone booth, he's in a safe space.
All right, in the first round, we drafted our quarterback of the future, Kenny Pickett, the face of the franchise. As much as I'd like to address the offensive line, particularly the tackle position, I don't love what we have on the board here. I'm not going to force the issue. So I'm going to address another position that I think needs to be addressed. And I'm going to opt for the upside in George Pickens. Of course, Deontay Johnson's going into the last year of his deal. Chase Claypool, his head at times is in it. Sometimes it's out of it. Outside of that, I think the only receiver you have under contract beyond Gunnar Olszewski is more of a special teamer. So George Pickens is the pick here for me.
All right, next up I have the Green Bay Packers. They got this via trade, and I'm going to go Jamari Sawyer.
Yep.
Georgia. He played
Very good player.
tackle, but he needs to be playing inside, where there's not too much space, and as long as there's not too much space, again, it's another guy who I think there's a couple of guys, Tyler Smith as well, where it's just they have to be in a phone booth, and you can see them at their best. And he is that guy. So we're gonna slip him in there because Green Bay needs a couple of guards on the roster.
I like him. I think that's a player
Yeah,
that not enough people are talking about.
they're not.
And I did consider him at Pittsburgh, but considering what they've done in terms of the interior of their offensive line and trying not to force the issue, ultimately opted for Pickens. But Sawyer's a good player. I think he becomes a starter in short order. New England's on the clock in the first round. I opted for corner as opposed to receiver. I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did because the quarterback position starts to get a little bare once you get past the first five or so. Not bare in the sense that there isn't talent, but guys that I think that can immediately contribute. That is now starting to taper off as we get into the heart of the second round. So let's go to the receiver position. And so among the receivers here, the guys that I'm kind of zeroing in on are John Mechie and Khalil Shakir. I think Calvin Austin certainly deserves some attention here just because of the speed that he brings to the table, and that's what they're missing to some degree in terms of their perimeter weapons. But I think this is the coaching in terms of what Mechie got at Alabama and the development that I've seen over the years, the IQ and the physical tools. He doesn't get enough, respect for what he does in terms between the lines. You know what I'm saying? He can create separation. He has a good feel for it, and he can make plays in the open field. So John Mechie to kind of help out that receiving core that's ailing a bit. You add Devontae Parker to the mix. Now we're working with a little something. Now we're a little bit more respectable, and this is a familiar weapon for Mac Jones.
All right, next up we have the Arizona Cardinals, and with that first pick, we selected Zion Johnson to show up the interior of that offensive line, plug and play, get him in there, let's go. And I'm going to go with a guy that maybe most people aren't talking about, but I do like his game, and people have kind of pegged him as maybe similar to Mike Evans. Don't think he's quite as smooth or polished as Mike Evans is, even when Mike Evans was coming out. And this is Alec Pierce, Cincinnati wide receiver. He was Desmond Ritter's number one target. And this is a guy who actually, them stats should be much, much higher. And he just didn't get the ball as much as he should have from when watching the tape. But this is a guy, blazing speed, a guy who's going to go up and get the football. And he's going to make it tough on defenders because he's a big body. And so I think this is a guy who Kyler Murray can actually, target outside of DeAndre Hopkins. All right, next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. And this is a team who could use a receiver. It looks like every time you turn around, they're in the market or they're asking around. They're doing what Dallas does. Just ask, hey, what you think? You want to come over here? What is the price? I think they were in the market for Devontae Parker before New England snatched him up. Or I was thinking we could go interior offensive line, and the guy that I'm pegging to the Dallas Cowboys is Tyler Smith from Tulsa. Who I really like watching the tape, and one of the other phone booth guys who has to play within a phone booth, and a guy who he got to use his hands, man. Like, you can't play offensive line if you don't get your hands out there. If he can master that and play in the phone booth, he'll be just fine. Plug and play.
He definitely gives you some more physicality compared to the likes of perhaps a Connor Williams. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock, and in the first round, we selected the cornerback. We're trying to address that eyesore opposite Tre'Davious White. Levi Wallace wasn't terrible. Don't get me wrong. Teron Johnson's excellent in the slot, but I think Kyrie Elam just gives you so much more. He offers so much more on the boundary. One position that I've given quite a bit of thought to is the running back position. I know a lot of people would like to see an upgrade at that particular position. Though when they gave the ball to Singletary towards the end of the season, I thought he was really effective. They also added Duke Johnson. You still have Zach Moss in the mix. So not a pressing area, but certainly if you feel like that's the best player on the board, that's a direction you can go in. I personally really would like to see a change in the middle of this defense at the second level at the mic in terms of Tremaine Edmonds. I think he's a liability. I've gone on record with respect to that in our previous mock drafts, typically addressing that position in the first round, but thought better of it this time around, went corner. Now we're coming back, and we have some good backers. We have some good quality players on the board in the second round. And the guy that I'm going to opt for here, I think he is probably most effective in space which is where Tremaine Edmonds tends to lack. Quay Walker probably has a little bit more upside in terms of just kind of the physical tools that are available to him. But I like Christian Harris. I think he's well coached. I think he understands the route combinations, the concepts. He's not going to just be whizzing the ball past his ear hole. You understand what I'm saying? He's going to get his hands. He's going to be able to get into the passing lanes and make a difference at the second level. So Christian Harris is the guy here for me.
So next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons. And let me see, who did we get so far? We got Malik Willis with our first pick. And then we turn around and we got David Ajabo, edge. We're going to stash him, play later off the edge. And I'm going to go running back here. Right. These running backs are falling, they're slipping. You know how it is with the running back. If they're not a superstar, they essentially just kind of eliminated from the first round. And that's essentially what's taking place. And I'm gonna take the most star-powered running back here in Kenneth Walker III.
Kenny.
I think he's actually the best pure runner.
Yes,
in the draft.
I agree with that.
I think Isaiah Spiller and Breece Hall are definitely a little bit more complete, but I think Kenneth Walker just gives you a little bit more. I think the Falcons just need more flash and dash. I mean, they don't have Calvin Ridley out there as a receiver. We know what he was doing, and you got to be able to help your quarterback. And I think when you talk about either receiver or running back to help your quarterback, we could go tight end, but obviously they have that in Kyle Pitts. So let's just go in the backfield. I think it's the best between the two positions in terms of receiver and running back, and I want to get Kenneth Walker, get him the football, and just lights, camera, action. Get your popcorn ready. So next up, we got the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to select linebacker for these guys. I'm going to go with Quay Walker. The slide stops here with him. I don't know if it's a slide, but it's a violent downhill player who actually can play in space. You probably don't want him manned up running around chasing guys. He's not. It's not ideal. I'll say that. But I think he's pretty good in zone, and I think he's a guy who can come downhill and attack. And with the guys they have in front of him, those guys were doing work this past season in terms of that front four, if you will. And I think that he could be a guy that can contribute as long as those guys are doing their part. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to go tight end here. We're going to go Trey McBride. Rob Gronkowski right now, we have no idea if he's going to sign, if he is going to sign. He's kind of living his life, doing his thing. I think he probably comes back for at least another year to pair up with Brady. Brate, who is, and Brate, who is probably on his last year, if not, essentially his production has gone down pretty much every year. He had a couple of good years, and he's kind of going down, getting older. He is a guy who they use in terms of his contract to kind of finagle things and move things around. But I think Trey McBride would be perfect here. Next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers, and I'm just going to go interior offensive line here, man. I was thinking between two players here, Dylan Parham or Darian Kennard out of Kentucky. And I've liked Kennard for the longest. So I'm going to hang in there with Kennard, a guy who's played plenty of snaps for Kentucky, and a guy I think who would fit well in what the 49ers want to do in that interior offensive line.
All right,
Remember,
so
left you with the last three picks.
Yes, it appears that you have left me with the last three picks. The Chiefs are on the clock yet again. Obviously, they have a bevy of selections due to the Tyreek Hill trade. Initially, we drafted Jahan Dotson, followed that up with Jordan Davis in the first round, back to back, and then earlier in the second round, we selected Jalen Petrie to help out that secondary. Now on the clock, I am of the mindset to go back along the defensive side of the ball, continue to outfit this roster with playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. We have a need at cornerback. The question is does a player match up with the board at this juncture? I think Kobe Bryant's a good player. I think there's some work that still needs to be done, but certainly in this scheme, particularly if we're getting after the passer, I think he can be effective. There's some good edge rushers out here. They can continue to improve upon their pass rush here. And I believe that's the direction that I'm planning to go in. And the name that stands out to me the most at this juncture is probably going to be Cameron Thomas here. I like him opposite Frank Clark. We don't know how long Frank Clark will continue to be with the team out beyond 2022. But if we're talking about in 2022, Cameron Thomas, Jordan Davis, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark D-line with Nick Bolton, Will Gay behind that. I'm really starting to like the way that front seven or so is starting to pan out. So Cameron Thomas is going to be my pick here. And now we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock, the defending AFC champions. We rounded out the offensive line. They did a fantastic job during free agency. Piecing it together, filling in those holes. Put the exclamation point on it with Tyler Linderbaum at the pivot. Now we're in a position to do any number of different things, right? We could go best player available potentially. But again, does the board kind of mesh with that? Does that all work together? I'm looking at the second level of the defense, Drew. A guy I really like, Damone Clark here. He would have been the pick for me had it not been for the spinal fusion surgery. So I'm gonna shy away from that. I think he ends up in day 3. And kind of looking ahead with respect to him, 2022 in all likelihood will be lost to him. Leo Chenal, he has a high, but I don't think he's a good scheme fit here. These guys are typically playing a 4-2-5. That's really what they're doing. Their base is generally 2 linebackers in an even man front. So I'm gonna go with the uber athletic, although albeit a little inexperienced. We had an opportunity to see him at Mobile. He flashed there. He obviously has done an incredible job throughout the pre-draft process, showing excellent athleticism. I think it's just a matter of him getting more reps at this juncture, more coaching. I like his upside. I like his upside a little bit more than perhaps a Channing Tindall. Darian Bevers, Brian Asamoah, those are good players as well. Don't get me wrong. But I'm going to go with Troy Anderson. Put him next to Logan Wilson, who's cleaning up everything anyway. And I think you have a really dynamic duo at the second level in terms of being able to find the ball carrier and cover a lot of ground. So Troy Anderson is the pick here for me. All right, so with the final pick in our 2-round mock draft, our head-to-head mock draft, our mock draft duel here, 2022 NFL mock draft, get all the mock drafts out of there. A couple of players at the second level that I would consider here, Brian Asamoah from Oklahoma, as well as Leo Chenal from Wisconsin. I think both those guys could be good players here, but I think we might be able to address that in the next round. I'm going to try to get this right tackle situation figured out, man. I'm going to see if I can get it figured out. And I'm going to opt for big old Daniel Falele to protect Russell Wilson. All right, get Williams in behind him on the run game, and just have a mountain of a man that the edge has to try to get around in order to get to Russell Wilson. So that will wrap up our mock draft, guys. Let us know what you think down in the comment section. Be sure to like, as I mentioned, comment, and subscribe. We got a bunch of scouting reports coming out. We have the Versus series dropping next week. We have some 7-round mock drafts coming as well. There's a flurry of content leading up to the draft and after the draft as well. So again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For Drew, this is Juice, signing off.